Hello and welcome to another episode of Raising Rockstars. My name is Lulu Davis and I'm an artist manager and music industry executive with over 15 years of experience in the rock and metal industry. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is currently festival season and it's complete madness. We've had bands touring all over the UK and Europe this summer. We've had bands at Download Festival, Hellfest, Grass Pop, Mystic, Rock for People. There's still plenty to come as well. So yeah, the bands have definitely been keeping us busy, but it's great. It's all part of the magic. And one thing that I really wanted to discuss this week was the implications of international touring. Are your band prepared for international opportunities? And at what point does it make sense for you to start touring in another market that isn't local to you? Let's consider that you are a band that is going to be touring in North America for the first time. And you've been offered an opportunity and it's a support tour. You're an opening band on, let's say, a free band bill or even main support to a headliner. You're sitting there and you're currently thinking, this is an amazing opportunity. What are the implications for my band? What are the things that I have to consider? So, first and foremost, in this situation, the one thing we always take into consideration when looking at international opportunities for our bands is, where are we currently at in our career, and does it actually make sense for us to take this big step right now? Touring the US is a big responsibility, huge cost implications, and although it can garner a lot of positive results, it's really important to assess where your band is at that current moment in time. Is this the right time for our band? Do we have enough people out there who would potentially be interested in our music? And is now the right time to make a big move like this? And some of the questions you might want to ask yourself are, have we established the market where we're from? Have we got touring experience? Are we well oiled in terms of live and touring locally? Have you toured around the country sufficiently? Are you familiar with the logistics and all of the planning that it entails to tour outside of your own country? There are a few things that I would definitely take into consideration. Do you have any press there? Have you got any momentum? Are there credible sources to acknowledge your band in the market to make you feel like now is the right time for you to make a move there and to introduce your music to those people out there? Are they anticipating you? I think that's one of the main questions. Is your band anticipated in the USA or wherever it may be? So there are a few things that I would take into consideration first and foremost, because the next step is really, really important, because when you're applying for a visa for a country like North America, the implications are huge. It's a very costly and timely process, and you have to have confidence that your band are going to be accepted for the visa. The visa that we normally apply for our bands when touring the USA is a P1 visa, and this is active for 1 year. And it's not just about the immediate tour that's coming up, it's about what's coming after that. Are there going to be follow-up dates, opportunities for recording in a studio, doing collaborations, and other work that relates to your band being eligible to work in the US for that period of time? And that's something that you would speak with your legal consultant about, because there are different implications depending on whether or not your band only has like 1 tour, 2 tours, 3 tours, and whether you have any follow-up opportunities positioned for that amount of time, because investing in visas is very expensive. So that's one consideration, just ensuring that your band are in a position of strength there, that you have enough metrics, enough streams, sales, evidence to back up your application for touring in that country, because right now it's extremely hard. We are seeing a lot of bands denied visas at this point. Our friends over at Prog Power USA are definitely dealing with a lot of these situations right now, and I really feel for them, because it's very, very challenging all round, particularly if you've made plans or you've already invested some money into the logistics or whatever it may be. So just have that in mind with your planning. Now, the next part is funding. How are you funding this tour? Does the funding come independently from the musicians in your bands? Do you have some cash flow available there that's going to allow you to carry out this tour? What are the fees? What are the expectations on merch sales? Is this enough to cover your touring overheads? 9 times out of 10 on a support tour, likely not. So it's definitely wise to consider having some backup cash or some form of level of investment to ensure that you guys are not out of pocket and that the investment that you make in doing a tour like this is covered, because the worst thing is committing to a tour and then finding out that you just can't afford it, that it's not financially viable. And this is why it's always really important to run a budget. So if you download either the Touring Toolbox or the AAA Access All Admin Pass on my website, in here you will find comprehensive touring budgets for you to be able to type in all of the details for your tour, all of the costs for your crew, your merch, your visas, what we look at in terms of the profit and loss for any tour. This allows us to give a relatively accurate projection of what you can expect when it comes to touring overseas. And we run this for all of our bands. So there are other ways, of course, that you can finance a tour. Maybe you have a label who is willing to give you tour support. That's always a really, really beneficial part of any deal. So if you're working with a label, it's always best to call your label manager or your product manager, whoever is responsible for these decisions, and to say, look, we've been offered this amazing opportunity. However, we're going to need some financial support here in order to grow the market. These are our plans. We've been offered this tour, and after that, this is what we aim to do long term. We aim to go back in the next 6 months and have a run of headline shows booked in order to capitalize on the new fans that we gained from this support tour. That's how I would normally do it. Or alternatively, already start looking at things like festivals or follow-up support tour opportunities that you can just keep the momentum a little bit going in that market. Maybe you also have some new music that you can promote out there. Maybe you've hired a new publicist who's going to reinforce those efforts in terms of the press and the media side. Maybe you have a digital marketing campaign planned. I think it's just important to not just think immediately about this tour, but what comes after? What is our long-term strategy? That will also give a label a lot more faith in investing, providing some money for you, knowing that their investment is going to reap the rewards long-term. And that's not just going to be this standalone thing where you tour once and then that's it. You obviously want to build the market. You want to build your fans there. You want to build your merch sales, get better fees in future. There are a lot of things that can be done to make those moves. So label support is definitely a good place to start, particularly if you have that support. However, a lot of bands don't. A lot of bands are independent and they don't have the security of a record label or additional funding. So where would you look? Where would you look to get this money from? So a lot of countries have opportunities for funding, export market growth development funds. And this is something that I would definitely recommend you looking into. 9 times out of 10, there will be something available for you to apply for to demonstrate that you're an exciting band that has some momentum. You've been offered to go abroad for a great opportunity to tour and to bring your music, and you're representing that country, that music industry in another part of the world. Funding organizations want to see long-term planning. What comes after that? What do you plan next? What are the moves that come after this particular tour? They want to see the long-term strategy there. They want to see the benefits. They want to see what are they getting for their investment. So there are things to consider. But funding is definitely something I would hugely recommend applying for. We've benefited from funding for majority of our clients. Interestingly enough, I think the USA is actually the only country that doesn't really offer anything like that. So you can get a lot of funds to go to the USA, but if you're a US-based band, getting out of there can be a little bit challenging and the funding options can be limited. So that's just something to keep in mind. When you're running a budget, things that you might want to consider within the budget are things like flight costs, visa costs, costs for your crew, costs for merch production, costs for any videographers and photographers that you may want to take on the tour, any additional accommodation that you might need if you're not taking a mode of transport like a bandwagon, for example, where you can sleep and travel. Some bands do van hire and hotels, others might use a bandwagon. Some might have a nightliner share in very rare occasions, but that's also a possibility. And just understanding the cost implications of all of those things, because they definitely add up. Another thing that you need to take into consideration is any other ancillary costs that you might need, such as backline hire, Backline hire is obviously going to be really important. If you have an endorsement partner, they may be able to help you with discounted rates for your hire. If not, you would need to either explore that you use an in-house kit at the venue if you're fine with that, or potentially kit sharing with someone in the touring party, which can be very 50-50. They may or may not be open to you sharing their kit. So just be ready for that. Ask those questions in the beginning just so you understand whether or not you face an additional cost implication there. So these are some of the things that you might need to consider cost-wise, and just understanding, like, can we actually confidently cover this, and where is this money coming from? So the next thing that you might want to think about is the promotion and marketing, and really making the most out of this opportunity. Because even if you are on a support tour and it's not completely your responsibility to sell tickets, it's your responsibility to make sure that your band gets the most out of this opportunity, and they capitalize on the new faces and the new people that are going to be in that crowd who are going to be there witnessing your performance. Promoting your band effectively and ensuring that all of your tour dates are listed on your website, your band's in town, your song kick, Facebook events, ensure that you're invited as co-hosts. If you have a publicist, ensuring that they've sent out a press release, letting people know that you're performing. I think that's a really important factor, because particularly when you're a development act, it may also be the case that you do some tour press, and there may be journalists who want to interview you in person at some of the shows. So having that in mind and capitalizing on the opportunity, making sure that as many people are coming to your shows to check you out as possible. And that can also be true for industry. So if you're someone who is without a manager or an agent or a label, and this opportunity has purely come about as a result of your personal relationship with another band or just by independent efforts, this is also a really good opportunity to start inviting people to the shows and treating it as a bit of an industry showcase. So I would definitely do that. Research who the relevant people might be that you can invite to the shows. Running some digital ads is never a bad idea. Doing some discovery ads in each of the markets that you're performing in, so that people know that you're performing there, and trying to incentivize them to come and check you out and maybe come down to the show early, because a lot of the people will typically go for the headline band, but if they're impressed by the whole package, they may come down earlier to check you out. So the discoverability opportunity is big there. So definitely take advantage of that. And one of the last things I would probably consider is when you're on a tour like this, so let's say everything else goes to plan, you figured out your finances, you figured out your logistics, you're feeling confident in everything else that the tour has presented to you, you've done your advancing, and finally you're there, you're on the road, you're out there. Forging the best possible relationships with the headline band and their crew is going to put you in a position of strength moving forward when it comes to gaining more opportunities. Being professional, being communicative, being easy to work with, turning up on time, having a smooth sound check, not running over your allotted time. Particularly when you're a support band, you are facing shorter changeovers, shorter sound check times, and there can be some challenges as well. You might only be given a very small corner of the venue where you have to put your merch up, and it may be out of the way. There can be loads of things that may pop up day in and day out depending on the size of the venue. You may also have to set up in front or to the side. There may be complications in that regard. It may be uncomfortable, it may be inconvenient. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes in the beginning a lot of the time. And I just recommend taking a lot of these circumstances with grace and acceptance, and just understanding that, you know what, this is frustrating, but it kind of is how it is. And I think there's definitely a time and a place to fight for your rights when you're a young touring band, and particularly if you don't have a tour manager that is fighting for you on your behalf. That may be a responsibility of you guys independently as a band. And it may be the case that there may be a show where you have to take the tour manager aside and say, hey, listen, the past few nights we've experienced this. It's very inconvenient for us. It's a little bit uncomfortable. These are the challenges that we're facing. Can we please discuss this and take some time to navigate a solution here so that we can be comfortable for the remainder of the tour? That's something that is really important, because ultimately what you want to achieve is professionalism. You want to find a unanimously positive outcome for everyone on the run, and you also don't want it to affect the artist to artist relationship in any detrimental way, because that's really crucial. The fact that the bands bond, that you have respect for each other, that you support each other, and that you all want this to be a really great experience is something that everyone ultimately strives for. I've had many bands in many scenarios on various different tours where challenges have popped up left, right, and centre, and ultimately it's really how you deal with it. I've had bands coming back from tour going, oh, I'm never going to tour with that band again. And I've had other bands come back going, oh my gosh, they treated us so well. We were really looked after and cared for. We loved the crew. We would love to work with these people again. There are so many different scenarios that can happen. But I think it's just about just preparing yourself. Prepare to be a little bit uncomfortable. Prepare to have challenges that you need to face day in and day out. You may also face long periods of having very small buyouts given to your band every day. You may face very minimal riders. You may face times whereby there's no stage water or towels or anything like that. Touring is rough. So I would always just hope for the best but plan for the worst, particularly when you're touring internationally and you're also touring in a market and venues where you're not familiar with how things are working. As you come to be more experienced with touring worldwide, you will come to identify the markets where the hospitality is really good, the quality of the venues are high, the promoters are really good at doing their job. You'll be able to differentiate between the venues that have really good sound systems versus ones where it's a bit challenging, or lighting rigs, or whatever it may be. So I think it's just good to go through the process a bit and just to understand all of the mechanics. And as time goes on, you'll be able to understand like the whole scope of what's on offer when it comes to touring internationally. There's a lot to consider, and it's not always easy. It's a really big decision to tour internationally because it's also a long-term commitment. It takes work, it takes time, it takes persistence, it takes investment. This also comes at the cost of mental and physical health, family, relationships, jobs. There are so many other things in your personal lives that you have to consider before you go, right, I want to be an international touring artist. So while it may look glamorous on the outside and it may seem like bands are having these amazing shows where they play to sold out crowds and all of the social media content is communicating that they're having this incredible time on the road, I can guarantee you it's never as smooth as what social media makes it out to be. There are challenges day in and day out on the road that people face. That can be anything from delayed load-in times, it can be riders not arriving, it can be problems with sound check, technical problems, there can be people that have delays in traveling and getting to the show, not enough space in the venue to set up the merch, it can be your card reader not working, it can be bands pulling out last minute. There can be so many factors that can go wrong on a tour. We have to be very respectful and mindful of that, because there's definitely an element as well of problem solving and navigating those challenges. So they're just some of the things that I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully they've been insightful for you and you can take away some of these things for consideration when your band is touring internationally. Look at all of the circumstances. Make sure you have travel insurance, make sure you have instrument insurance. Another word of advice, put air tags in all of your belongings. Luggage goes missing way too frequently, and a lot of the time the airlines don't want to be held responsible. Empower yourself by adding air tags into all of your instrument cases, all of your personal luggage, and ensuring that you know exactly where your belongings are at all times. Make sure you are insured, make sure you have air tags, okay? I will finish this episode with that piece of advice because I cannot reinforce that enough. Please do that. Thank you so much again for taking the time to listen to me ramble on about a bunch of stuff. And don't forget that I'm also available for one-to-one consultations for your band should you need any further advice. I'm currently running an offer on all of my on-stage and backstage consultations for festival season. If you add the code FESTIVAL20 at checkout in the consultation page, you can get 20% off your first consultation with me this summer. In addition to that, I have a range of toolkits and free resources available on my website, luludavis.co.uk. So check them out, sign up to our mailing list, and don't miss out on empowering your band to get to the next level. Thanks again for listening. Bye.